What is up, guys? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. So sorry to be a couple of minutes late. Definitely didn't want to make that a continued thing here on the Ben Garcia Show. A lot of things to talk about. The Super Bowl matchup is set. How does that relate to the Cardinals? Yousef Nurkic, Deandre Ayton, they're basically the same player. Let's jump into it. See you guys in a couple of seconds.
The Ben Garcia Show. Yeah. Best show in the land. Yup. Listen. Come and get your information from Ben Garcia. Get the latest on your quarterback, running backs, and receivers. Tune in, so any other show you don't need them. Any news that he giving out, please just believe him. Giving out the latest prediction and top-notch analysis. Wanna hear the truth, better have thick skin like calluses. The latest move that your team just made can be damaging. The dudes ain't speaking no facts, they just be rambling. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman. Yeah. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman. The Ben Garcia Show.
What is up, guys? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. However you're watching, however you're following the show, thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Sorry, I had a little bit of technical difficulties on this Monday edition. It is Monday. That is just what happens on days like today, but I apologize as I'm trying to set up things in the background and just get things ready for what is the week ahead. But, I mean, let's just talk about it. The Super Bowl matchup is set, and it does feel like the Arizona Cardinals got taught a lesson. You know, last week we talked about how the Arizona Cardinals clearly need to focus on doing what the Philadelphia Eagles have done. And I've even got a short social media breakout clip that I'll put out later today on social media. But I think what you learned last week from the Philadelphia Eagles is very plainly that you got to be able to stack that team. Kyler Murray is clearly a good quarterback in the NFL. And for everyone out there that just doesn't like him because, I don't know, he's short, or you have a narrative against him, or you've been rooting against him since he showed up in the league, or for everyone that's rooting for him, and especially that should be every Arizona Cardinal fan. You're not rooting for the guy to fail. That's like rooting for your president to fail even though you didn't vote for him. It just hurts you as well. But what we've learned about Kyler is pretty plainly this, that he is a quarterback in the NFL that needs a lot of things to go well for him to play well. And what I think you saw from the Philadelphia Eagles and the Arizona Cardinals is there's a clear blueprint to be an effective team in the NFL for years to come. But I don't think that's all you've learned from the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not just you got to stack the roster, you got to find a good running game, you got to draft well defensively, you got to establish a culture of physicality. I think, unfortunately, what you saw from the Philadelphia Eagles is that offensive line play is so bleeping important. Like, it is the most underrated thing in the NFL that we like to talk about it sometimes so it makes us feel better about not forgetting it. But clearly, it is what is the driving force behind the Philadelphia Eagles' run this year to the Super Bowl. And I think what you saw last night or yesterday is very plainly that the Arizona Cardinals made the wrong decision at number 4, drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. This is not me saying he's a bad player or he's a bust or I was wrong about him being a star in the league. I still believe that he is going to be one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. The issue is positional value. And just like how running backs were down over the past couple of years, I think what you saw is wide receivers' value start to come down. A.J. Brown is awesome. He's not the driving force of that Eagles team. It's Saquon Barkley. It's the offensive line. It's the timely throws down the middle. And so what I think you saw is it's hard to say this because it comes off as just a contrarian take. But I think what's fair is the Arizona Cardinals made the wrong decision at number 4. Now, I'm not saying that they should have just drafted Joe Alt or at number 4, although if they couldn't have found a trade partner, I would have done that. But last year, I was beating the table of this team has to trade back. Get multiple picks, get multiple players in the first round, get multiple players in the second round, help add to your draft value next year, and go get an offensive lineman. And go get Dallas Turner. Go get Fashanu from the Jets, who got drafted by them. Or go get Joe Alt, who ended up getting drafted by the Chargers. I love Marvin Harrison Jr., and he's going to be a ton of fun. And he's going to sell more jerseys than Joe Alt. And he's going to sell more jerseys than Dallas Turner. Well, if his jersey situation ever gets figured out. But with that being said, Marv, although he seems to not be a diva wide receiver, a lot of wide receivers are. So as much as I love Marvin Harrison Jr. and I'll buy the guy's jersey and it'll be fun to watch him score touchdowns and make unbelievable catches, and even myself, I don't think he's a bust, not anywhere close to it. I think he's going to be a really good wide receiver in the NFL. Potentially a top 10 guy, potentially a top 5 guy. I don't put any of that past him. It's positional value. And I just look and see what the Arizona Cardinals could have been this year with what was good line play, could have been elite line play. If you had Joe Alt on one end, Paris Johnson Jr. on the other end, Yoda Froholt in the middle, Will Hernandez when he was playing well and healthy, and then at that point, you just got to fix the right guard position. And then you're right up there with some of the top offensive lines of the Detroit Lions or the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think at that point, it just helps Kyler Murray flourish. And then you draft a wide receiver late in the first round because you traded back, or early in the second round. Maybe that's a Keon Coleman. Maybe that's a Ladd McConkey. But this is what I was talking about a year ago, which was very plainly, yes, Marv is fun. And it's the sexy choice. And it's going to sell jerseys. But I think what you saw with the Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles is very plainly that this team needed to get better line play. And with a quarterback like Kyler Murray, who's not a top 5 guy and needs other things around him to succeed, I really feel like drafting Joe Alt or trading back and getting Fashanu or a Dallas Turner, or in the second round because of those picks that you trade back with, you got a Ladd McConkey or a Keon Coleman. That is what the Arizona Cardinals should have done. It's nothing against Marv. It's not a contrarian take. It's not me saying the guy sucks. All of that would be ridiculous, inauthentic, disingenuous. But it's clear at this point, Marv wasn't exactly the right pick at number 4 last year, although it made you feel better. And if we're just being fair, I don't think that's all in Kyler. Marv, I think, also lacks a little bit of a mentality to just go be elite. So, I think what was exposed this weekend was wide receivers aren't that important. The Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl without a true number 1 again. A.J. Brown had 2 catches going into the NFC Conference Championship game. This game has and will be, and for the foreseeable future, won in the trenches. Defensive line, offensive line, and as much as Marvin Harrison Jr. is fun, makes you feel better, big play guy, I think what you clearly saw over the past couple of weeks, offensive line play wins, and it makes me feel validated when last year I was saying, hey, I know Marv is great, but it feels like an offensive lineman or a pass rusher might be the better place to go, as well as trading back and getting more picks. So that's where I would have went. Although I get it, Marv is fun, and I still think he's going to be a good player for years to come. All right. Let's keep this the ball rolling, if you will. And I appreciate those guys that are in the chat right now. Ivan, King Nacho. You guys always make it fun to be here each and every day, 6 a.m., 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, guys. The Arizona Cardinals, clearly we had issues with guys like Drew Petzing over the past couple of weeks, or I guess I should say over the final couple of weeks of the NFL season as my computer shakes for you guys. But there was some interesting news that came out over the weekend. For everyone that wants Drew Petzing gone, it was potentially horrific news for the Arizona Cardinals fan base. Because you might be stuck with Drew Petzing for the foreseeable future, regardless of how you feel about him. The Chicago Bears are interviewing Arizona Cardinals quarterback coach Israel Wolfork. And that is, without a shadow of a doubt, really bad news for the Arizona Cardinals. And you see Israel Wolfork in your bottom third of your screen right there. You probably didn't even know who the guy was. But Israel Wolfork seems, from some of the interviews and questions from the media and bare minimum from the guy, he seems like a very sharp dude. But the Cardinals can't afford to lose that guy. And I know it's kind of nonsense because he's a quarterback coach and it's hard to have a really strong opinion on a guy that, let's just be honest, it's the first time you're probably hearing of him. But this was the guy last year that I was hammering for to take the play calling duties away from Drew Petzing. Drew Petzing is too conservative. He is a shallow and crosser route wide or dump off guy. There was no creativeness in the offense. Each and every week, we were trying to figure out why Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray were never on the same page. Those were all things that were issues with Petzing that should not have been. And I was clamoring for Wolfork to take the play calling duties away from Drew Petzing. Seemed like a bright, sharp guy, and I thought to myself, it couldn't get any worse than what Petzing is doing offensively and making this a BB gun offense. If Wolfork, who I think is a really bright guy, over some of the interviews and media availabilities and just time standing around him that I've seen, I think that could be a potential gut-wrenching loss for the Cardinals. Because if Drew Petzing runs out the same offense, just runs it back in 2025, the offense that didn't work in 2024, you can't get rid of it. Wolfork was the only coach on that coaching staff that had any sense of being able to call plays. He's never called plays before, but no one else on that offensive staff has called plays before. It was one of the reasons why you never moved off of Drew Petzing, because the experience or lack thereof in the coaching staff just wasn't there. And you didn't want to hand the reins over to a coach who likely would have been even more conservative than Drew Petzing because they've never called plays before. Hence, just trying to not turn the ball over. But Petzing's offense was not creative. And if Israel Wolfork does get awarded the offensive coordinator position for the Chicago Bears, it could spill real issues for this Arizona Cardinals team. Not only is Kyler Murray losing his guy, the coach that he's spending time with individually to help better prepare him as a quarterback in the NFL, that being he is his quarterback coach. I think that if he takes that position or if he's offered that position, it can only mean bad things for Kyler Murray and it can only mean bad things for this offense potentially. Because Drew Petzing is the OC. And if he flames out again, runs out the same offense in 2025 as he ran out in 2024, there is a clear worry that you just can't replace him because there's no one else on this offensive staff with any experience calling plays, with any experience trying to keep this team together offensively. And it could be the straw that broke the camel's back in 2025. Because when you're looking for a replacement to Drew Petzing, you're looking around and the quarterback coach would be the guy to go to. Israel Wolfork, one of the more experienced guys, although he's never called plays. Kyler Murray's guy, the connection is there. If you lose him, you might just be stuck with Drew Petzing for the foreseeable future, with no other options to go. And I think that could spell bad news for Jonathan Gannon. It could spell bad news for this whole team. If this offense flames out again and you have no other options but to stick with Petzing, everyone could lose their job. Because with an offense that's as talented as this team, and McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. and James Conner and whatever it is, I mean, this team's got guys everywhere. Michael Wilson. I mean, if it flames out again, you might just run your course out here in Arizona after your third season. And no one wants to just lose their job here. So I thought that was some underlying news that didn't get as much headline or pomp and thrill on Twitter over the weekend because it's a quarterback coach. But it's something that could legitimately hinder the Arizona Cardinals season because of how much we went after a guy like Drew Petzing. And I would encourage you to go watch some of Israel Wolfork's media availability. He is a really bright guy, and I love listening to him personally. And it's why I mentioned at the beginning of the year, or I'm sorry, in the middle of the season, that this guy should probably take over for Petzing. He looks like he's got the personality of a little bit of a gunslinger. Just making things up as he goes sometimes. And with Kyler Murray's escapability, sometimes that's exactly what you need. Just a guy that says, get out there and rip it. And if he goes, I'll be honest with you, I know it's a quarterback coach, but I would be sad to see the guy go. He is exactly what this Cardinals offense needs, which is at times a gunslinger. So, some underlying news for the Cardinals fan base to keep your eye on. You don't want to see him walk out that door. Because if that's the case, you will likely be stuck with that being Drew Petzing. And Petzing last year, none of us were real fans of the guy. And we don't want to see it go through that again for another season. And then there's also just the brief caveat before I come to end here, is Israel Wolfork. If he doesn't get the job with the Bears, you're like, okay, what's wrong with him? Because he impressed me. So either way, could be a double negative for that being one Israel Wolfork. But news to keep your eye on if you're the Arizona Cardinals, the potentially first big domino to drop in the offseason. All right. So there was some news over the weekend. God, I thought we were done talking about this guy. Truly, I thought we were done talking about this guy. And as that's coming from someone who's defended him. You know, this is clearly what I feel like I've been as a broadcaster, an opinionist, is my ability to change how I feel on the fly. Because I really couldn't care about being right. I'd rather be right. But I'm more interested in the words of the great Colin Cowherd in getting it right. Because what's the point of having an opinion if you can't just admit when you're wrong? So, Yousef Nurkic was a guy I defended at the beginning of the year because I didn't think he was the reason for this team falling apart. I thought, especially last year, superb passer, pretty good around the rim, getting rebounds, although had issues finishing around the rim. But my argument has always been this team isn't going to rely on Yousef Nurkic and how well he is as a center in the NBA. It's always going to center around the big three. This team will go as the big three goes. Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and I understand there are some people in the chat who don't like me saying the big three. But just for sake of argument's purposes, that's what I'm going to call them. Those three guys is how the season was going to go. How good they are, how bad they were, was going to show how much success or lack thereof they were going to have in the season this year. Not Nurkic. He's a role player. He's an overpaid big man. I never once left that argument, which was very clearly that Yousef Nurkic was an overpaid big. But he was less of an overpaid big than that being of one Deandre Ayton. Nurkic, at some point, you just got to send the guy home because he's become a cancer for this Suns team. And pregame, he gave some comments to that being of one Dwayne Rankin, who, real hat tip, has had, he's always had really good reporting, but even recently has just been giving out some real nuggets of information, whether it was trade talk or whether it's inside that locker room. He's just been so good. And it's why I tell people to stop listening to the fake reporters of the world, the Evan Sideries, or the people that cryptically write out stuff in Twitter posts and try to act like they have information when they don't. Dwayne Rankin, the Gerald Bourguets, the John Gambadoros, the people that are actually connected with the team are the people you should listen to, not the people that throw out subliminal messages to try to make you think they knew what they were talking about when they never did. Nurkic gave some comments talking about the relationship with Mike Budenholzer. And here's kind of what it said. We don't have a relationship, so it's fine for me. Just be a pro and do the best I can. Work and stay ready for whatever it might be, but there is no chaos or bringing that to this team. They already have plenty of it. Trying to be as professional as I can as someone who works my ass off for something else. That quote is so funny, and I'll throw it back up on the screen because he says he is currently a member of this team. And he says, but there is no chaos or bringing it to this team. They already have plenty of it. Nurkic is currently on the team, and he's using they as if he's not on the team. And the idea of saying you're not going to be a distraction, they already have enough of it, just shows you're being a distraction. Because you're saying they already have enough of it. I don't actually know if the Suns have issues in their locker room. I can speculate. I can think they can, but I don't actually know because I'm not in the locker room. At some point, we just have the same issues with Nurkic, who just revealed this team has issues in the locker room. The more things change, the more things stay the same. Yousef Nurkic and Deandre Ayton have become the same player. DA with Monty Williams, Nurkic now with Coach Budenholzer. Both had issues struggling around the rim, both had issues with physicality, and both think they're better than they actually are. And Nurkic, here are his next comments, which is, it's hard to understand why, in regards to him being benched. As you know, I try to do whatever they want from me. I play my role, whatever it is, but at the end of the day, it's the NBA. So he wrapped up with that. It was a really good article. I encourage you to go listen to it, but it's just nonsense. I'm so sick of Yousef Nurkic and him trying to act like he is being blamed for the Suns season. Dude, you're not good enough for the Suns season to be put on you. You've been pulled out of the rotation because you're bad under the paint, you don't fit with this team, and physicality, you lack it. And it was one thing when Deandre Ayton did it, because Deandre Ayton was superbly talented. He just never put any of it all together, which is, just as bad as the Nurkic situation at times. But it's just ridiculous. Nurkic has become a distraction for this team, both on the court and off the court. On the court for his play, and off the court for comments like this. And the clear lack of self-awareness, something Deandre Ayton struggled with all the time. At some point, it's just funny. You're currently on the team, and you're saying they have enough issues as it is. You're on the team, man. That means you have issues too. Throwing Coach Budenholzer under the bus like that, it's a guy that has to go. I don't care if that means a trade. Clearly, I wish the guy did get traded. I don't care if it's sending him home. suspending him for comments detrimental to the team. But this guy's a clown. He is what he is. He's just a clown. Ivan in the chat, he's a victim. King Nacho going after Beal once again. Nothing to do with this conversation, but still kind of funny. At some point, the Suns just need to send this guy home. Him and DeAndre Ayton are one of the same, and one guy you put up with because of the talent, this guy doesn't even have that. So with that being said, that was my comments, or that was my thoughts on Nurkic. It just gets old after a while, where with DeAndre Ayton, it was just like, okay, sure, DeAndre, after everything he said, I'm dominating. And now with Nurkic talking about how he's not going to be a distraction at the team, quickly, Bradley Beal, his comments about moving to the bench where I'm not going to be a distraction, I'm not going to be an a-hole, it's fine, I'll just move to the bench. And that was that, right? And that was the right way to handle it. I'm just going to move to the bench. Nurkic went out of his way to point out the Suns have issues in the locker room. That I can't. I don't actually know that's true. It's just me guessing until someone tells me. Nurkic decided to be a good idea to tell me. So, lack of professionalism for a guy like Yousef Nurkic. Hey, guys, I appreciate you guys making me a part of your day. 1 week until we head over to New Orleans. I will be there. Let me know what you guys want to see at Radio Row, at New Orleans as a whole. I'll be there from that Monday through that Friday. We'll get a lot of good content out there. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. We will see you guys tomorrow at 6 a.m., 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Benjamin Garcia, and until tomorrow, it's been the Ben Garcia Show.